live. We are live. Hi everyone. Welcome to our Tuesday night, Kicking It with Kerry, and I'm here with Dr. Larisa Lehmer.
It's actually Larisa.
Larisa.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's all right.
I don't,
happens to everybody.
I don't often say your first name. To be fair.
Makes sense.
I do have the Lehmer part right, because a lot of people say Lemmer. Or what else do they say?
I've got lemur, which is
Lemur.
actually quite cute. You know, the little ring-tailed animals.
We like lemurs.
Yeah.
I guess that's what I hear the most is lemur.
Yeah, lemur or lemur.
So it's Lehmer.
Correct. Yeah.
Larisa Lehmer. Okay. So I'm here tonight with Larisa Lehmer, doctor, Board Certified Dermatologist, who has quite a passion for diet and how it affects really probably everything we do, but
right.
We'll focus mostly on your skin and your maybe a little bit dabble into health, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I know there's been a lot of interest actually in the office about like your passion for it, and not just the co-workers, because generally speaking they're all kind of very interested in health and well-being and what we can do. But when I said I was going to do this talk, there were a lot of people who were like, oh, I want to watch that day. I want to see what she's going to say, because really we don't know so much about like how what we eat can affect our skin. Mm-hmm. So it's really interesting. Of course, we all eat food and we all have skin. So it's relevant to every single person that could possibly be watching.
Exactly.
Yeah. So
and since one person can have a lot of different skin conditions, you know, there's a lot of things to keep in mind.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the first things that, you know, we definitely have to talk about is, you know, because we're dermatologists first and foremost, is just the amount of skin cancer we have in this country. There's 1 million new cases each year, meaning 1/3 of Americans will be diagnosed with a skin cancer at some point in their life.
So say that again. 1 million new skin cancer cases per year.
Correct.
And 1 in 3 people?
Yeah, will have a skin cancer in their life at some point. So
that's kind of crazy when you think about it.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, because the skin is the first thing that we interact, you know, comes in contact with the environment.
Right.
You know, when we're outdoors, the number one thing that causes skin cancer is UV radiation. Now, plants are outside all the time, but you don't see them developing tumors or things like that. They actually make antioxidants in order to protect themselves. So they use those antioxidants to reverse DNA damage. And so we can actually then co-opt those repair mechanisms, those antioxidants, just in our daily food by eating more plants.
Okay, devil's advocate here. I sometimes have seen plants, and when you get a chance, will you close that door, because I'm worried about the fans making that loud noise. Our molecule air purifiers being kind of loud because we have them on boost at nighttime when you all aren't with us. Mm-hmm. But I've seen plants that have like sort of like burn spots, right? Mm-hmm. Would that be the same as a skin cancer, sort of?
No, oftentimes those are due to the way we presently water plants. Oftentimes in the morning when it's going to be a sun-soaked day, maybe a little bit too late because we forgot to, you know, make the adjustment for daylight savings, and they'll have a burn mark that's essentially because of the lens effect, like when you take a magnifying glass and you try to kind of burn a leaf or something, you know. So they have that just from the watering effect. But so it's different. Or sometimes there's fungi that can get to them that might be able to create some other little spots. But
turn down the music. Sorry.
But usually, you know, if it's just a little local spot like that, there's some injury that's kind of above and beyond the UV radiation that it's subjected to. So one of the plants that makes, you know, a good DNA repair enzyme is actually turmeric. So, you know, we're enjoying our turmeric lattes.
And I did not, just like Larisa, I didn't know you say turmeric. I say turmeric.
Oh yeah? I could be wrong there, but it's funny. So
you say it your way again?
Turmeric.
Turmeric. Okay.
Yeah. You know, it's got this beautiful bright yellow color.
Yes, it tastes good too.
And it can actually reduce the DNA's ability to mutate in response to certain carcinogens like heavy metals and so forth. And so, that's one thing. In a specific study looking at, say, sun exposure specifically, they actually had people eat, so not turmeric, but lycopene in the form of just a tomato paste.
Okay.
Because when you do a study, you got to be able to do it so that the people who are getting the actual thing that you're studying can't really tell the difference between the people who aren't. So you can make like a sham tomato paste that doesn't actually have any tomato in it, give the other group that, and compare their response to UV exposure.
Uh-huh.
So the group that was getting the tomato paste, after 3 months of getting this daily dose of tomato paste, they exposed both groups to a certain amount of UV radiation, like on their arm, and that group had a 40% less redness response to that radiation, compared to not only the placebo group, but also to what had been measured in those people prior to the start of them taking the tomato paste each day.
How much tomato paste did they have to eat every day? Because I'm just thinking about that. I like a good tomato paste. I could do some, but how much do you think?
2 tablespoons.
Okay, that's totally manageable.
Yeah.
We have a question. Topical. So somebody's wanting to know: does a topical antioxidant work as well, maybe, as eating your antioxidants?
And what's the difference in efficacy? Is it drastic?
That's a great question. Thank you for participating. We will try to address all questions as they come in, so please keep them coming.
So that is a really great question because they haven't been looked at head to head. So we know that green tea, for example, topically, that's another plant that creates some antioxidants. That has anti-inflammatory, actually antimicrobial, antiviral properties to it, and can reduce your redness when applied topically. Actually, one of my favorite products here is the daily antioxidant cream for that reason.
Yeah, I can grab that one. It's right here.
Yeah.
Dr. McNeil's daily antioxidant cream. So this has green tea in it.
However, a study was done that looked at just consuming green tea each day, along with a lot of other different types of antioxidant-rich foods. So people who consumed green tea daily had improvement in their wrinkles and also in the roughness of their skin. So the thing that's beneficial there is you can imagine trying to apply, this kind of high-potency cream all over your entire body is less manageable. Yes, for the face, neck, chest, kind of the areas that we're more cosmetically concerned about, also the areas that tend to get the most UV damage, it's doable.
Right.
But putting it all over, a little bit more effort. So
And expensive.
yes, and very expensive. So
yeah, that would be my problem.
you have to get
I'm going to slather this whole thing all over myself, and that's not going to work.
So yeah, you have a 16% reduction in roughness alone. So it also helps people with sensitive skin. So we're addressing different concerns because some people might think, well, I'm not really out and about that often. I'm really good with my primary sun protection, which is always going to be sunscreen. Of course, hands down, that's the best anti-aging. But if you're addressing wrinkles that are already there or trying not to develop so many, then the green tea internally is really good for that. And again, topically as well. But to answer your question succinctly, don't have the head-to-head data. I would love to see it though. I don't think that we could really get rid of one or the other. Because it seems that they both have a role to play in protecting our skin.
So do both. Drink it and put it and apply it.
Exactly. I think you're going to get the best results that way. As we say, everything works better in combination. So topical and oral therapy in this respect would be really helpful.
Does it matter what kind of green tea you're drinking?
The matcha or sencha, so the Japanese green teas, are better for you because they have less lead in them. So, by the way, if you like what you're hearing here, a lot of the information that I have comes from a really great website called nutritionfacts.org. So if you want to know more about the details of, okay, what teas have more lead in them and how did they discover that, they have a nice review on lead in tea.
Mhm.
But Chinese teas have had some issues with some lead contamination, whereas it hasn't been the case in Japan.
Okay.
And so that's the ones I'll tend to segue more to, or some in, yeah, exactly.
So what's your favorite tea, green tea?
Matcha.
Well, like brand, like
Oh,
we buy at Trader Joe's.
goodness.
Where are we going? Where are we going, Dr.
Where are we
Lehmer?
going?
Where are we going?
So locally, there's Pete's. They sell a nice matcha. I think that's pretty accessible. Although that's a no matter where you live, there's a lot of franchises out there. But I go on Amazon. I get the jade leaf one. It's pretty affordable. It's the ceremonial grade.
So, okay, so just somebody's at home, they're like, I want to like do green tea, I want to be so good, I want to take care of myself.
Get the jade leaf ceremonial grade matcha on Amazon.
And they're drinking 5 cups a day, what do they need?
Oh, just 1 cup a day.
I
you
could
know,
do that.
Yeah.
We could all do that, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's good for redness. It's, you know,
I get red.
and the other thing is, so it's not just what you're doing for your skin. It's also knowing, hey, what are some of the things that are going to deplete my antioxidants?
Mm-hmm.
So just so you know, alcohol will actually deplete your antioxidants pretty fast. It happens in like a matter of 8 hours.
That's a problem.
And so this is especially important to keep in mind as we go into the summer months when we want the added protection from our antioxidants.
Right.
So if you're going to be outside and enjoying a margarita or something like that, just make sure you have some lime with that, which a lot of times the drinks will, but a little extra of that can actually help replenish some of the antioxidants in your blood. But yeah, it's measurable and it goes down real fast because it takes a little time to build them up sometimes, and then you can wipe them out mighty fast with some alcohol.
That is so funny. So I didn't know this, that alcohol depletes that protective barrier, or
yes, you're more likely to get a burn if
Right.
you're outside drinking. So.
which, I had my girls' weekend, the 50th birthday, a couple weekends back, and I was in San Diego and outdoors on a patio, and I had, of course, put my sunscreen on, because I do. I'm really good, and I get burnt really easily. But I was drinking a margarita, and maybe there wasn't enough lime in there. But I got sunburned, and I was like, that's not fair. Why did I get sunburned? But it probably was the alcohol depleting the protection in my skin.
Yep.
So we probably should circle back, because we started this conversation with skin cancer
Yes.
and what we can do to help protect ourselves from what we can eat and how we nourish our bodies to protect ourselves from the skin cancer. And you said the tomato paste.
Yeah, now that doesn't, the reason they chose tomato paste in the study was just because that's studyable. So it doesn't, you can have tomatoes. You don't have to go for it.
I just didn't know how to say the big word that you said.
Oh, lycopene.
Lycopene.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's a specific type of antioxidant
Okay.
in the red vegetables. So if you eat any red veggies, so tomatoes, bell peppers, beets, and beets also have beta carotene in them. Beta carotene is another thing, another antioxidant. So in our yellow, orange veggies, as well as dark leafy greens. So let me see. We have our beets, our carrots, our kale, collards, spinach. What are some other good ones? Well, tomatoes.
Red
Interestingly, you can absorb more of the lycopene in the cooked version of the tomato. So yes, like actually your pasta sauce and things like that are really good for you.
Okay.
And then a lot of the herbs and spices, so not just turmeric, but oregano and cinnamon and cumin. They often have a lot of antioxidants in them too. So you can have a kind of an arsenal in your spice cabinet as a way to kind of boost your food antioxidant wise.
Are there any, other than sunscreen, any products that we have that help with skin cancer? So
the sunscreens are number one, and actually this sunscreen here are the advanced sheer mineral sunscreen. It has some green tea in it, and vitamin C. But in terms of primary protection, that's going to be number one. We have Helio Care as well, which I didn't grab for our table, but that is it's specifically targeted to be very available in the skin. So if you know you're going to be out for a long time and maybe in the situation where you're going to be wine tasting or something like that and be outdoors, that would be a good thing to probably have beforehand. Or thank you, Kate. Yeah, that's like an antioxidant sunscreen, like specifically. But it's of course good to have a diet that's full of antioxidants. Your berries have a lot of them in there, like blueberries. So just keep that level up so that then you don't have to remember to take the Helio Care. Or if you happen to forget taking your Helio Care, you're also kind of covered from that perspective.
So, I'm all about practicality, right? So I wanted to help with the skin cancer, but then all those things that you were just mentioning, the beets, the spinach, the kale, the cumin and the turmeric, or however you say it, and the lycopene. Did I get that right?
Yeah.
Okay. All of those things, like, do they help with sensitive skin? Do they help with dryness? Do they help with wrinkles? Do they help with I've got a full list of things, so talk to me.
So yes, they do help a lot with wrinkles, for example. So they did do a study that looked at a large group of women and measured on a scale of sort of wrinkling of the skin, but kind of graded them. So we have some objective measures. Yes, they're imperfect, but at least you could put like a scale of 1 to 6. Okay, people who had less than 2 servings of vegetables a day always scored an average of 1 point worse on the scale than those who had 2 or more servings of fruits and vegetables a day. And sort of the ones that came out as the most beneficial for wrinkling were going to be increased amounts of legumes, dark leafy greens, green tea, and even some olive oil. Although I don't routinely recommend kind of adding oil to foods because it's probably just better to eat the regular olive. And that's for the acne effects, actually. If you have too much oil in your diet, it can inflame acne. But that's saying, like, okay, some healthy fat. A little bit of the healthy fats actually helps you absorb the vitamin A and other fat-soluble vitamins better. But then, so that's for wrinkles and dried apples, prunes. In a separate study, were shown to also improve wrinkles. So if you're looking for, hey, what can I snack on that helps my skin, the apples and prunes are a good one.
I've seen those in the in our little break room, and I haven't gone for them once.
Oh, the chips.
The apple chips or the prunes. I actually haven't seen prunes, but maybe that's by design that we don't have those in the office. I don't know. But the dried apple chips, I'm like, no, that just does not look good. So
really?
What about the person? Yeah, I know, it's crazy, people like me that don't like that stuff. But what about the person that is like, how many vegetables and fruits a day? Like there are people that don't eat any.
Yeah, that's true. That is a problem in the United States. Our standard American diet is very fruit and vegetable poor. When I learned about the fruit thing, that really shocked me because I thought, wow, fruits are sweet and they have a very strong flavor to them. But if you're used to eating things that are more artificially sweetened or just put sugar in, then I guess by comparison it's less sweet. Mm-hmm. But the really encouraging thing is if you have a goal to improve your diet, taste buds will adjust.
True.
It takes about 2 weeks sometimes.
Yeah.
And for certain things, like getting off of dairy, it can be a little bit of withdrawal. Mm-hmm. But once you go through that period, there is light at the end of the tunnel. And these foods, these simple foods, end up tasting amazing.
Yes. Is there something wrong with dairy?
So yes, dairy there is. If you are a patient or a person who suffers with acne, or wants to avoid breast or prostate cancer, I always say yes, please avoid dairy because there's 15 different sex steroids naturally found in all dairy. It's just what it is. Even if you get the most pure organic milk out there, or cheese, it's just the nature of milk itself. It is a kind of communication mechanism, kind of turning on different processes in a growing being. And our problem is that we're drinking milk from another species. So it wasn't even formulated for us to begin with. And yeah, so it can wreak havoc on our skin for sure.
I'd say most people want to avoid breast and prostate cancer.
Yeah, 1 in 8 women will get breast cancer in their lifetime. So and for men, I don't know this, but this, prostate cancer is, they say, oh, if you live long enough, then oftentimes you're going to have an issue with the prostate cancer. Now that brings me to the point of flaxseed.
Mm-hmm.
The reason I think about that is because on the, I guess, non-skin side, flaxseed, it can be used to reduce your risk for breast and prostate cancer, actually. It's been shown to do that, just in the flax meal. And so how wonderful. This is something that's easily added to the diet. It's very shelf stable if you buy it, especially in the whole seed form. And you can just use your coffee grinder to grind some up, or you can even buy it in the pre-ground version. It still has a pretty long shelf life that way. The flax oil, which some people will take as a supplement, that one has a really short half-life, so I generally don't recommend that. Also because you're not getting the fiber component of the flax that way.
So if you had a teaspoon of flax seeds and you had your milk, does that just make it an even playing field? Does that like offset?
So the percent offset of dairy over time versus flax over time, like head to head, again, like you'd have to sort of, weighing the pros and cons. If you know that something's not going to optimize your health and something else is, it makes the most sense to remove that.
But it tastes good, Dr. Lehmer.
So,
milk. I like milk.
Yeah.
I don't like almond milk very much or soy milk. I mean, I'll tolerate them, but I just don't like them very much.
What do you think about what's in your tea right now? The turmeric latte.
That is really good, but if I'm having my coffee, which is what I'm used to having.
Have you tried oat milk?
I have tried oat milk.
Okay, same. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, and again, that's a taste bud adjustment. And if you're like, okay, well, I just have 2 tablespoons of milk in my coffee a day, but that's still way better than maybe before when you'd have also Greek yogurt and all these other things.
Greek yogurt's bad too.
Well,
She eats all that stuff.
it's dairy.
I guess so.
I can't.
I mean, it's Greek though. The Greeks have great skin, and they live long, healthy lives for the most part.
Well, but this is.
I'm just teasing you.
Yeah. There's a
She's
whole,
like, I'm right.
there's a whole realm of issues with how we perceive. The Mediterranean diet, yes, produced a lot of long-lived people. But when we notice that, we then look at what they're eating right now and we think, oh, that's the best diet. But no, you gotta rewind the clock 100 years to see, okay, what were people eating at that time that now they live to be 100? And it's way less dairy, way less meat than we think because of what they're currently eating in that region of the world. So again, back to flaxseed. I was going to focus on the positives. I wasn't thinking about going down the dairy rabbit hole.
I just do that. I'm sorry.
But it's okay. So back to the benefits of flaxseed. That really helps with sensitive skin. So about half of the population has what you can classify as sensitive skin. So that meaning tingling, burning, like itchy sensation to their skin at some point. Some people it's ongoing, and we treat them for eczema. So regardless of how severe your skin sensitivity is, it responds really nicely to about a half a tablespoon of ground flaxseed a day. Now, of course, in the study they used like canola oil versus flax oil because again, you can make 2 identical looking pills for that.
Right.
But it's still better to get it in the whole food form. And the way they did this was they tested people's arms before going on either the sham or the flax with a known irritating substance and measured kind of how red and bothered they got from that. Then after 3 months of doing the half a tablespoon of flax a day or teaspoon pill or not doing it, they did the same exact test. And people had over a 25% reduction in their response.
That's really amazing. Like if you think about the people that are really suffering daily with sensitive skin and uncomfortable or not sleeping, or if they could just take a half a tablespoon, you said?
Yeah, half a tablespoon. Just throw it in your oatmeal
Ground flaxseed?
or a smoothie, or mix it into a plant-based yogurt.
Plant-based yogurt.
So,
yeah.
put it in with a little bit of peanut butter. It's very innocuous in terms of its flavor.
Right. I could do that.
Yeah. Or I use it as an egg replacer when I make muffins and things. So it works well for that.
Like the oil, you mean?
Oh, an egg replacer. So I don't cook with eggs. So what I do is I'll take a tablespoon of. Yeah. No, seriously, like check out nutritionfacts.org, guys. So
She makes good cookies. I mean,
yeah, the cookies are great.
Yeah, they have a whole lot of just good information to know. Because knowledge is power, whether you plan on using it like immediately or if it's going to kind of soak in and you're going to gradually get there. It's just good to be aware, because you don't want to be in that situation where you're like, oh, I wish I had known.
Right. Well, and it's interesting. I mean, we use our bodies every day.
Mm-hmm.
We eat food every day.
Yeah.
And it's like how much time we spend researching, the new car we want to buy, or the purse that we want to get, or the, what dermatologist you want to go to. You could be spending a little time learning about what you're eating, consuming every day to extend your life a lot longer.
Right, because some of the either substitutions or some of the additions don't really take much doing, and when you get it into your cabinet, it can kind of become a little bit of autopilot.
Mm-hmm.
There's a daily dozen checklist on nutritionfacts.org that goes through the dark green. We have a little magnet on the side of our refrigerator, so we can check off okay, we got our serving of berries and we have at least a serving of greens. And if you're kind of wanting to say well, I'm going to go for it and I want to make sure I get all the top things in every day. If you follow that checklist, your diet's going to be pretty darn healthy. It includes things like water too, because it's really good to stay hydrated.
There's probably an app for that.
Yes, there is actually.
Yeah.
It's called the Daily Dozen Checklist app.
Okay, so
Through
you
nutritionfacts.org.
could do the fridge magnet, or you could do the app. Okay.
Yeah, they have it through the website. But since we started talking about acne,
yes, let's get on to the acne. Because a lot of people have that problem.
Oh yeah, there's an amazing thing that can be and again medical treatments, everything like that. This does not replace those. But if you're wanting to do everything you can kind of from the inside and in a kind of side effect free manner, there was a study that pitted barberries against placebo.
I don't really know what a barberry is.
Right. So we have a picture of that. You can buy them dried. They're used in this country most in Persian cuisine to make one of their signature rice dishes. But they're very bright red, small, kind of tart berries.
Okay.
But all it took in the study was an equivalent of 1 tablespoon of those a day. And and you can put it in oatmeal, you can put it in a smoothie, you can put it, you can just eat it like a handful, but I mean it's tart.
Yeah.
As long as you know that going into it, it's not too surprising. Then you can have a reduction of your inflamed acne lesions by 1/3, or more in some cases.
Does it help with general inflammation in your body?
So, yes, because they did actually do a study on polycystic ovarian syndrome and how patients with that, and that no one really knows why some of these conditions pop up, but it actually patients with that condition were given barberry extract, again, so there could be a placebo control, and that disease got better. I'd have to look into, say, hey, does it help with psoriasis or things like that? I don't know that specifically, because again, it has to do with is that condition studied? And as you can imagine, funding can be an issue. Because
Right.
if you have a new treatment out there, like a drug or something like that, then usually you've got a lot of backing to recruit a lot of patients and things like that to try your treatment or drug versus the placebo.
Nobody's making a ton of money off barberries.
Right, no, they're not. Although maybe now they will, because
Maybe I should.
the demand will go up.
Yeah, maybe I should start a farm. How do you grow a barberry?
They look a lot like a goji berry bush, and I know this because my parents have a goji berry bush at home. So I don't think that would be hard. Probably just a pot, and then you'd have to kind of make sure that you have the soil requirements correct.
Let's go into business and make a barberry farm. Let's do it.
Okay.
Let's do it.
In all our
Don't
spare
tell
time.
anyone.
In all our spare time, yeah. Yeah, so that's a super great thing to again, you know, because you're reducing inflammation in the lesions, because sometimes those can get quite painful.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, like I said, there's no such thing as big broccoli, like funding things. So,
Right. Big broccoli. All right, so we've covered skin cancer, we've covered acne.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk. Well, we talked a little bit about fine lines and wrinkles. Oh, somebody's asking a question. Go ahead and just tell me what it is. I can't read.
What are your thoughts on collagen supplements, powder versus pills, collagen creamer, and how much are you supposed to take? And then what about vegan collagen?
I'm curious about this because I kind of have an opinion and I haven't studied it, but I thought that all the collagen stuff was a bunch of malarkey, like a bunch of baloney. Talk to me. Tell me.
So I do know that there's been a handful of studies on it, some of which are equivocal, like you're saying. They kind of like no great benefit over placebo. However, others have shown a benefit. Now, again, it's not. So the supplement industry is very poorly regulated.
Yes.
So unless you know that there's a vetted supplement, so you know, like Nutrafol or you know, HelioCare or something where you just, you know, the company's scientists or, you know, spoken with a professional who has, and you know you're getting a really good one. I oftentimes tell people to steer away from those because more than half the time, sometimes they don't even, first of all, have what they say is going to be there. It's like 0% in the actual pills.
Because nobody's checking.
Yeah, because no one's checking. Other than when they'll randomly kind of go in and look. And, you know, again, it's researchers, not a regulator.
Right.
That they're looking into this. Sometimes they have other things in them, like heavy metals. So, so I don't think that you need collagen to have a benefit. My thought is because your stomach's going to break it down anyway before you can rebuild it. So why not just have a nutritive diet that is far slower in inflammatory things and more on the antioxidant side, to kind of save your money and kind of, you know, spend it on some, you know, some barberries or some nicer things in that respect, because you know, you got to break it down for the amino acids, and they're just going to be floating around in your gut to get absorbed in their separate amino acid component. So maybe that means that those individuals who had an improvement on the collagen, you know, weren't getting enough, like, just calories in their diet. Because if you're eating enough calories, you'll be getting enough protein. People always ask that, okay, you're plant-based, like, where do you get your protein? Now, I don't see them asking that to the grayback at the San Diego Zoo, because also gorillas are like, vegan. You know, when you go there and you watch them, they're just like shoveling in the romaine and the kale and all that.
Right.
So, and every like large beast of burden is essentially a plant-based animal. And so you can get plenty of it. You just have, you know, eat a higher volume to get enough calories. But again, as long as you get enough calories and you're not eating some just strange like Oreo diet,
Right.
Then you'll be getting enough protein.
So on the collagen question, you're basically like not a fan. You're saying just eat,
not too much of a fan.
Just eat the good food, and of course people don't want to do that because it's more work.
Yeah, and I mean, again, there have been some studies that have shown benefit. So if you're looking at those studies and you found a good supplement, probably go ahead and take it and be fine. You know, but I just would caution, because you know you don't want to be taking the heavy metals or anything like that might come along with it, and wreaking havoc on other areas for health.
Right. Okay.
So that's why I always recommend, like, you don't hear me talking about curcumin supplements. I talk about just taking the spice turmeric. If you want to increase the bioavailability of that, you have a pinch of black pepper with it, and it shoots up the bioavailability and potency of the turmeric spice like 1,000-fold.
Did they put pepper in here?
I hope so. It does have a little bit of a peppery note.
There is a little bit of a zing to it.
A lot of the chais will have black pepper in it already. So some of these spice combinations have been used for centuries. And the cool thing is we get to learn about why they're effective now.
Right.
Get down the sciences out.
Yeah. There was no chai turmeric teas 10 years ago that I know about. I mean, there might have been. Not at Pete's Coffee, though.
No, probably not, so.
So it's more mainstream and you can get your hands on these things, which is a huge benefit.
Yeah. Now, another thing a lot of people care about, especially as we're right next to the ocean, we're entering bathing suit season, is cellulite and just kind of their overall fitness.
Right.
So the beneficial to thinking like, okay, I'm kind of on the fence about doing this for my skin. Like, you know, maybe I feel like my skin is pretty good. We're all also fighting the aging process in regards to our like fat distribution and things like that. So we have a lot of good treatments here for excess adiposity. One way to prevent it in the first place is whole food plant-based diet, because you're less likely to be overweight on that in the first place. But people who eat a whole food plant-based diet have a higher level of a compound called adiponectin, which is actually something that helps you burn fat. Whereas you switch someone from that diet onto a more like animal product-based diet, and the adiponectin levels drop. So you're going to have more accumulation of the fat you're taking in, or harder time burning it off on a high saturated fat diet, which is standard American diet.
Right. Okay. So plant-based diet's going to help with cellulite
And with muscle mass.
And muscle mass.
Because we're coming up with that, we have that flex challenge.
Which is seems totally contradictory. You know, my mom, I think she's watching, my mom, Dana, she's always like, you know, she says protein, but what she means when she says protein is, you know, chicken, beef, you know, meat, potatoes sort of person. So, and I always have associated meat with muscle. And so you're saying that this plant-based diet, you can be more muscular.
Yeah, and so one of the reasons we know that now is, you know, the keto diet's also gotten very popular.
Yes.
And so proponents of the keto diet apparently have like a decent amount of funding to kind of to look at, okay, how does our diet compare with other diets, head to head, in terms of weight loss, muscle gain, so forth. Also overall fat loss. Because that diet really emphasizes taking in a lot of fat, essentially.
Right.
And while there is increased burn because you don't have the carbohydrate source, it's kind of like saying like, okay, we're going to empty the tub, like the bathtub. Like imagine you got a bathtub and it's like, okay, full of fat, but and we have the same size drain. But or we're going to enlarge the drain a little bit because we're burning it faster, but then we're pouring in so much more. Right? So they're like, okay, but does this actually work? Because there was a theory that it should, and unfortunately the theory fell flat. You do have increased weight loss in the initial month compared to whole food plant-based diet, but it's very important to know what that's composed of. So the loss is actually from lean muscle mass and water. So it looks really encouraging on the scale, but then if you have less lean muscle mass, you're less able to burn the fat, you know, long term.
Right.
But and again, it's a really hard one to sustain because who doesn't like, you know, potato or bread or things like that.
Yeah.
And I don't have anything against potatoes, by the way. They're actually one of the most filling things you can have. The problem we have with them is we always douse them in too much oil. So aside from the oil, like if you eat your potatoes like, you know, baked or steamed or boiled, then they're good for you.
No bacon, no cheese, no
Yes.
sour cream.
Yeah, no putting
no
oily stuff on
butter,
them. Yeah,
which is
exactly.
how I like them. Usually with like salt around them.
Yeah. A little salt's okay.
Okay.
But the oil's worse for you than the salt. So if you're going to be cutting out all the animal products, you might need a little bit of added salt to the veggies at first, because one of the main places that we get salt in the U.S. diet is actually from chicken or beef, because they actually add salt to the meat in order for it to taste good. So you think about it, you know, if you look at the packaging or things like that, they'll have like pretty high sodium because it doesn't taste really good without it.
Right.
So.
Okay. All right. We've got a question, I think.
We've got a few questions actually.
Okay.
So I'm just going to start with whoever, you know, commented it first. So where can you find good plant-based recipes?
Okay, so My favorite place to go is actually the forksoverknives.com/recipes. Now they actually have an app as well that I find very convenient because once I pull it kind of works like a cookbook because they have it organized by section, like appetizers and soups and stews and salads and desserts. But then once you have the recipe up, it stays open, so you don't have to keep like, washing your hands off to like open the phone up again. If you're like, oh wait, how much of this next ingredient was I gonna add?
That always happens.
Yeah, it does. And so that's another like lovely thing about their app. But they're all for free online.
So Forks Over Knives /recipes.
Yeah, or just get if you search Forks Over Knives in the Android or Apple App Store, it'll pop up as an app you can keep on your phone. I also like the fat-free vegan blog. I think she does a really good job with her recipes as well. And they're not like completely fat-free, it's just like no added oil, more whole food based. Like that's what these two areas are. If you want to make something really fun that's vegan and baked, then the Minimalist Baker.
Okay.
But it might not necessarily be a health food, but it's okay to have a treat every once in a while. But those two main ones are my go-tos.
Okay, good.
Okay.
Good question, thank you.
And then we've got some questions about probiotics. What are your thoughts on them? And then probiotic skincare, I guess, is a thing. So just kind of questions about that.
Should I grab the Metagenics, or is that not this?
Yeah, no, actually, and I'm a fan of our probiotics, especially if you need a little short course of an antibiotic. I usually will recommend, hey, let's go on a probiotic to protect the gut flora. We all have a unique microbiome, and so there's different things that can push it one way or the other. Actually, what we eat can foster a good home for the right kind of bacteria. So it's even before probiotics, you can think of prebiotics. So if you're eating a diet that's shifted more to like high fiber, having a lot of the good beans and greens and things like that, you'll actually be building the home that the right bacteria like to live in. But sometimes it is helpful, say before you got that all built up on the inside, to take a probiotic. And we have one that's really good, formulated for acne specifically, which is the Acute Care Flora. And then this one for the Spectrum is just like, well, I don't have acne or anything like that, but I just want a really good probiotic to take because sometimes we have some things that can affect the skin that also affect the gut. So this one is just a good general one, but I probably prescribe the Acute Care one the most often because we're dealing with patients who have acne who are doing different antibiotic treatments, whether that's topical or oral. Now the antibiotic skincare market is a really exciting space because it's looking at, people who have acne, people who don't have acne, or people who have eczema, don't have eczema, what's their different microbiome profile? And can we help sort of jumpstart or reverse some of the negative changes in their skin microbiome with these probiotic creams?
Right.
I think that they are taking off more in Europe right now, but they're still having to kind of undergo, like the FDA is trying to figure out what to do with them because you're going to be putting something that is intrinsically bacterial on your skin. So making sure that stays very pure, there's no ill effects. It's just going to take a while for, I think, it to really get into the American market.
We're a few years away from that, maybe.
I think so. Yeah, I know, like for example, La Roche-Posay was doing a lot in that space, specifically for like the eczema related strains, like things that could be protective for eczema. So I think we should look out for that coming play, or maybe you have access to, one of the viewers has access to the European market. I think that there's some promising research there, but I don't know of a brand here yet that's kind of widely available.
I'm not sure, did we answer that person's question appropriately?
About the probiotics?
Yeah.
Well, I left to use the restroom, but I think probably it was just, they just were asking about
what we thought about
what you thought about it, and then probiotics for skincare.
Okay.
So
yeah, I guess we covered that. Were there any other questions?
Yeah, the next one is, do you have any tips for treating back acne? It didn't say anything about diet, but I mean, I assume.
Sure. So, of course, you know, and so the dietary things, and so specifically to acne, NutritionFacts.org has a 5-minute video called Saving Lives by Treating Acne with Diet. Highly recommend it just so you understand they have some good graphs that show the mechanism behind how diet and acne interact. But so say you've already gone on a whole food plant-based diet, that means it's dairy-free, meat-free, egg-free. And then you can additionally cut out oils and even healthy fats for a little bit of time while your skin's healing. A book that I have read and recommend that goes through how to do this is called The Clear Skin Diet by Nina and Randa Nelson. It's pretty short, and they even have some tips in the back in terms of how to follow that. And so for a month or two, being pretty low fat is not going to harm you. Because then once the skin has reached a nice kind of calm point, you can start adding some of those fats back in, like a little bit of like some walnut or some almonds, and just seeing kind of where, the skin's like calm and kind of like, oh, if I have like, too much of a peanut butter or something like that. That was me specifically with the peanut butter. Then my skin will I'll get a breakout. And it's just because ground up that fine too, we just absorb it a lot faster. And so even so, like, oil is even more processed. So that's why I don't even cook with oil or anything anymore. But so anyway, so whole food plant-based diet that's low in fat, still got back acne. My favorite treatment for that is start off from the topical side of things, the benzoyl peroxide wash. We have a 10% here that's really great. Just because then you can put that on, let it sit for a minute, and rinse it off in the shower. So you don't have the same concern for bleaching clothes that some of our, like the topicals that are leave-on will do. Because if it's on your back, it's always going to be covered by a clothing item.
So Kate's just brought that one over. That's a really low price point too. I think we sell that for $18.
Yeah, 18 to 20, something like that. Then the other thing for back acne that can be helpful is we do TheraClear treatments on the back. So if it's pretty inflamed or say okay, you got the diet going, but you still got some of the like cysts and things, you just want to clear it out so that then all the changes you're making in your diet you can see them faster. Then TheraClear is a really good option.
Yeah, and so how does TheraClear work?
So TheraClear works. It's a light-based device that has a little bit of a vacuum to it. So the vacuum helps suck the skin up into it. Now it's not anything crazy. It's just kind of moving the skin into it a bit. Suck some of the sebum out, and then the light is delivered right after that. So in a couple, it says the flash. Everyone's wearing eye protection, by the way. So and it's an anti-inflammatory wavelength or kind of set of wavelengths that helps address the acne. And then after the treatment, our skilled nurses, Christina or Paula, apply the kind of acne toning pads. So that's like a little alpha beta hydroxy acid,
right?
Some of the clindamycin, and I think something benzoyl peroxide too. So it's a little bit of like a medicated laser facial, if you will, or Bactial. Yeah. We use it most on the face, but it's definitely a good treatment for the back as well. But yeah, those are acne toning pads. I like them. Warning, if you start using them like I did, they can burn at first, but then your skin does get used to it over time. But I think they're actually very brightening as well. So it's not just if you have acne, it's just if you want to have a little bit more of a glow.
Who doesn't want to glow?
Yeah.
Okay. So Kate, was that all the questions?
There's one more question. What do you cook with if you don't cook with oil?
So I get the pan hot enough so that the pores in the stainless steel are closed. Because actually one of the reasons that food sticks to pans when we cook is we haven't let it get hot enough, and so those pores, as they're closing, bite down onto the onion and stick it to the pan. So you can test how warm your pan is if it's warm enough by dropping a little bit of water on there, and if it dances around like a ball of mercury, those pores are closed. It's actually kind of fun to watch too. So sometimes I do it just for that. And then you can throw your onions and your mushrooms down. Now sometimes they dry down because maybe you left it on there a little too long. You can throw a little bit of broth, a little bit of wine, alcohol cooks off when you're cooking it that way, or some water to just lift it off, and keep doing what you're doing. You can deglaze with like a little bit of vinegar too if your recipe kind of calls for that, or like for that bright flavors desired. So there's a lot of good options in terms of what to cook.
That's really good information.
Yeah. I think Forks Over Knives has a like water saute. That's kind of the general term for it. Sort of some like do's and don'ts, or kind of troubleshooting that. And they also have a cooking class as well, which is actually quite fun. It's intense. Like, it's an online cooking class, and in today's world of everything online, I guess they're a little bit ahead of the curve there. But you can, even if you really get into it, kind of explore all the different like ways you can make beautiful plant-based meals.
So I could talk to you for hours. You're such a wealth of information. It's been fascinating learning. I think we're at like 50 minutes right now.
Oh dear, okay.
And so I think, kind of wrapping things up, obviously, you're advocating for a plant-based diet.
Mm-hmm. As much as possible. Any direction you head in that way, you'll get the benefits from.
Okay, so, Kerry, we need to try oat milk again. We need to, not think that Greek yogurt is so great for me. Throw in some flaxseed. What else? Like, what's like barberries?
And your matcha. Yeah.
And your matcha. I really don't do the green tea well enough.
Barberries, blueberries.
We're going to start a farm, so I'm good on the barberries.
And blueberries, they're good for your dementia as well.
I definitely worry about dementia. I think I already have it.
Everyone should be. It's like a terrifying thing to have.
Yeah, unless you don't know that you have it.
True. At a certain point, it's harder for your family. But who wants that?
That's so true. So, did you want to add like anything else that we didn't touch on that we should touch on?
Oh, just one last thing, and I think this is in my blog post as well on our website, but when we were talking about the antioxidants like beta-carotene, lycopene, they're not only kind of a shield from some DNA damage, but they actually will improve the tone of your skin. So when subjects were able to manipulate with dials the skin color in the photographs they were seeing, and these were photographs of Caucasian patients, mind you, they all chose skin tones, and they say, okay, pick the skin tone that's the most pleasing. They all chose skin tones that were more yellowy, pinky in general, than just the baseline photo. They all kind of cranked up the dial. And so, interestingly, they kept that person's skin kind of on the fairer side. So you would think, oh, well, they're just kind of going for a more tanned look. Mm-hmm. But no, it's actually a lower melanin index. So again, wear sunscreen, mm-hmm. because apparently it's more attractive. The fairer you can be naturally, definitely, because I don't want to go there in terms of like sort of artificial ways of like, making yourself too pale. But you, as pale as you can be naturally, then your diet can start showing through. So their thought was that this is more of a marker. Hey, that person knows how to find good nutrients. That person knows how to get good food.
Hey,
and so you can sort of And so then maybe a tan is kind of maybe mimicking that in terms of its yellow undertones, but it's better just to get it from your diet because you don't have to get additional skin cancer or red skin, and you still have the benefit of the kind of glow and vibrancy. And so if you kind of look at people's palms, like if you really study my palms, you'd be like, okay,
I'm red.
Yeah, like, and mine are kind of, if you look at them like now, you can tell, okay, they're kind of yellowy. But when I'm talking to someone, unless you're really like looking at that, it's not going to be in a sort of disturbing level. But this is just where we have thicker skin, mm-hmm. so you can kind of tell over time how antioxidant rich has someone's diet been, and you can do like the little palm test there.
So what does red mean? I'm hot though.
You're warm, yeah, you're warm right now. So, but yeah, you're
not enough.
Right. So we're going to want to increase your antioxidant intake.
Yeah. All right. So I'm going to work on that. I promise. I'm going to. I think it's worthwhile because we only live once, so we want to live the best life we can. So
yeah, and it's enjoyable. Okay, yeah. There's that break-in period. It's definitely, because when you're focusing on the positives of what you're doing for yourself, your taste buds have adjusted, so you're just like experiencing flavors in a different way and experiencing the flavor of, okay, what does you know, a strawberry really tastes like, or, you know, like when you haven't had the sugar or anything else before, it's like, wow, this is, or a potato without the oil and things like that on it. It's like, this is actually still really like a lovely taste.
Yeah. Well, I don't know that I'm gonna get there, but I'm gonna try. I'm gonna make little steps, and that's all we can do. Well, we can do more, but I'm gonna try. Baby steps. So we'll get there. If anybody has any questions, feel free to just, you know, private message the account. These will stay up on our Instagram site, so you can check them out later if you wanted to, you know, rewind. She kind of went through some facts very quickly, so it'll still be there. Next week we'll be doing a show with Jennifer Moeller. She and I will be, I think, in the office right about 2:30, I think we said, on Monday. We're going to be talking about
Tuesday.
No, oh, Tuesday, that's right. We're going to be talking about, you know, everybody's wearing the mask, and Dr. Lehmer and I are both vaccinated. That's why we can be here safely without the mask on. But, you know, what we can do to improve this upper part of our face, what people are doing, what we're seeing in the office. So that's what we'll talk about next Tuesday. And we look forward to seeing you then. Thank you so much for joining us and for being a part of our NBDPS family. And thanks for kicking it with Kerry.
Yeah.